we wanted to have a conversation with you. Actually, we're going to have the conversation. And we'll see. I don't think we'll have time to get questions, but we're going to have a conversation about this topic that we both love so much, especially me, and that is to talk about the abundance of the universe, and to also talk about that we're truly meant to live as the natural state of this universe. It is the natural state of the universe. It's everywhere that we look. It's not only here on planet Earth, but it's everywhere present. And we're going to talk about that. And so what we wanted to start with is that we're going to share some of our own key points about how do we live from this place? How do we live from this idea, this belief, this reality that life is truly abundant? Okay.
So for me, I really did start in the sort of cliche spot of looking at nature. I read about it in the Science of Mind. I heard people talk about it. At the point when I heard all of this, this was many, many years ago, I was living on a salary of $495 a month, and my rent was $295 a month. So I was living on apples and peanut butter and popcorn for the last week of the month. And I was attending a Science of Mind community, and they talked about the abundance of the universe. And I was like, not so much, not in my universe. And I began to really listen to the idea that I could see the evidence of the lavish abundance of, and because I was studying environmental science and nature, I really paid attention how lavishly abundant everything is. If you look at an ecosystem, if you look at a forest, even in the desert, when the rains come, it bursts into bloom, no matter how long it's been waiting for that rain. All the seeds just wait, and when that rain comes, it bursts into bloom. And it's no joke. I remember literally going to the Ocean City beach, taking a handful of sand, and trying to count the grains in there, and looking up and down the beach where I had grown up, and thinking, how deep is this sand? How long is this beach? How many of those little tiny grains? And then I tried to imagine all the beaches up and down the East Coast and then the West Coast, all around the world. And then I imagined planets all over the universe with beaches. And I thought, okay, if that's not abundance, I don't know what is. Those kinds of exercises were a huge part of me really seeing, not just believing, but seeing the abundance of the universe. And if that was true for the birds and the bees and the plants and the animals, as it teaches us in some of the mystical sayings that we get from the New Testament, it must also be true for me and for you. So that's one of the key ideas for me.
Yeah. I too, I look to nature. When I came into the Science of Mind in 2007, I was living in the Bay Area. I was living in the hills of Oakland, California. And this whole idea of the abundance of the universe. So I took myself out on trips. One, I could look right out into this valley where I was living, and I could see all the redwoods and horses and all kinds of beautiful abundance. And then I'd take myself for a walk, and I'd just start looking at all the trees, and then the branches on the trees, and then the leaves on the trees. And I just wanted to remind myself, like, look, right in this one little space, look at all of this. And then I walked 100 yards, and I'm like, look, in this one little space, look at all of this. And I got to go out to Stinson Beach and places like that and see the grains of sand. And I would take myself out and sit on a rock and just look out onto the horizon. And it was like this never-ending ocean. And just listen to the waves and just get this like in my DNA. To get it in my DNA. And I'll never forget one time coming across an article about how the abundance of the universe is so much beyond what we think we know. And those ideas of where scientists used to think that we had 1 billion stars in this galaxy until they realized that the shape of the Milky Way and stuff, everything changed, and just overnight, the billion went to 1 trillion. Just like that. So there was this concept of 1 billion stars in this galaxy and 1 billion galaxies, and overnight, because they sort of didn't have the elliptical shape, just so it went to trillions overnight. And then the second example that I came across in an article that just blew my mind is in a rainforest somewhere in South America or what, I think that continent, that they went into a rainforest, this naturalist, and put a white sheet, literally a white bed sheet below one tree, and shook it, and got 13,000 new species of insects through the shaking of one tree that they didn't know about before then. And I just went, there it is. Right. And those are the examples that I remember and think of from my life.
And we can see, right, that in the cycle of nature, things do come and go. The abundance isn't exactly the same. It is the quality of life itself that is abundant. I mean, we can cut the trees down and then we don't have them anymore. So it's not the form. Do you see? It's the quality of life that is abundant. That's what I had to get a hold of. So I raised my son primarily for 20 years on a one-person salary. And over and over and over again, I was confronted with this belief that a single parent working in the ministry, which is maybe not the top paying job that one could have, that I had a belief that my abundance was limited, and that I would struggle to raise a child in the way that I wanted him to have the experience of a full and rich life. And over and over and over again, do you see, I had to go beneath the form of my paycheck, the form of the fact that I got virtually no child support, the form of the amount of income that I thought I could or would receive, the amount of outgo that, all the articles say how expensive it is to raise a child. And I had to go below my fear of the forms to the essence of the abundance of life. Does this make sense? Right? That's what it means to focus on the abundance. It's not about the forms. It, for me, was about deeply working with, contemplating, grasping, and accepting that the life is abundant, which means my life is abundant, regardless of my opinion or my fear, which then translated into belief and lack and limitation around the forms. And so I was able to raise Jason in a primarily one-income household over the course of 20 years in an extraordinary way. And I don't think either one of us experienced any sense of limitation. And we had all kinds of amazing experiences. And what I knew is that I was always supplied by that abundance. And magically, that was the case. Always supplied with the abundance that I needed.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say on this topic of looking at nature and tying it to the abundance is I also read in one of my favorite prosperity books, and I don't know specifically which one, and the tide comes in and out every single day. It comes in and it goes out, and it's this natural form of nature. We see that in a lot of different ways. But I love the tide as the example. And so because the tide comes in and out every single day, we don't freak out when it goes out. Oh, is it ever going to come back in?
Right.
Oh my God, it's never coming back in. I mean, even in, a hurricane coming in, I mean, it does. The tide goes way out. A tsunami, same thing. It's like this amazing. Think of this. So, you'll see the tide, it just sucks out. And you just go, what the heck? And then, not too long after that, even more comes in the case of a tsunami or a hurricane. But it's this natural state, so I've normalized it.
Yes.
And I think that's significantly important because there are times where things go out or expenses come up unexpectedly and it goes out right then, or there's a larger credit card bill this month and I know it's like gonna, take something more to go out. And I've just normalized it, and I don't panic, I don't go to fear, I don't go to anxiety, I don't go to worry, because I know that if it goes out, hey, in some cases it comes in even more in the case of a tsunami and a hurricane. So I've learned to normalize and not focus on this sense of lack in that particular moment, because I know and I claim it and I declare that that tide must come back in. And so I would say that as well.
So in Karen and I having these conversations over the course of the last few weeks preparing for the month of October, one of the things that that we really noticed is that we are motivated, but we take abundance up differently. And so also one of the questions, or one of the point is, and so what does abundance look like for you, right? What does prosperity and abundance look like for you? Why do you want to be abundant? What do you want to do with your abundance? And Karen and I take that up very differently. And I am hugely and massively inspired by the way that Karen takes this up, because I have had to heal, I'm not going to say struggle, I have had to heal a deep belief, thanks to my family, that it's more spiritual to be poor. And that if you're really spiritual, I cannot tell you how many years I said money isn't important. Well, I did get to experience how unimportant money was. Which meant that during all that time I was just describing, I had to spend a lot of time working on my abundance, because I was confronted with the fact that I didn't believe money was important, and that that maybe I should not hold it as important as my spiritual work, or as important as other things that I was doing. And Karen has been an enormous inspiration to me. So this is one of the things that we were talking about and discovered. So talk about that for you and what you do with abundance and how you hold that.
Yeah, I think I'm just so grateful that I don't know where it came from, because it certainly didn't come from my family, because we grew up really poor and both my parents were teachers and all of that. And I just believe that somewhere along the line, I made this connection that money is like everything. It really is. And so for me, I hold it as much as I cherish being able to breathe at all times, and as much as I cherish that I know that my breath is always there and it's a part of me, and all the things that we could link it to, I put money in that same category. I literally call it like it is the current of life. It's just some symbol that was made up, and it started with goats and cows and whatever, and then little, rocks with a hole in it and whatever's come along, and silver and this and that. It's still just this form of exchange, just like a hug, just like love, just like breath. And so that's how I hold it. Therefore, that's how I experience it in my life. And so it's just as significantly sound, important, and not necessary. See, yes, breath is necessary, and I rarely put my attention on my breath. unless I'm holding it. And then I have to put my attention on and tell myself, breathe. Breathe, everybody, right? Well, see, sometimes I have to put my attention on it, but it's still just like a breath. And so I hold it as such. And I know that I can give Val and Linda and Tom and Sherry and Michael, and I can give Martha and Marcia and Joe and all of you a hug, and then Kia's going to come up and I give her one too, and then you see Cleo comes up and I give her one too. I now call it the never-ending gobstopper from Willy Wonka. This thing itself. And so that's how I hold this current of life. Current, C. Do you see? Current, C. It's a currency of life. And if I lack in that currency, just like if I lack in being able to give the next hug, I lose out and you lose out. If I lack in the currency of life, I lose out and you lose out. See, there's no way that can be disconnected. If I hadn't held my strong and firm beliefs on how I hold this, I couldn't have given as much to this community over the past 8 years. I promise you that. I couldn't have given when somebody has a campaign or this or that, and it's just like, there you go. Because it's just like my hugs, it's just like my breath, it's like my heartbeat. I always have one more. And so I don't cling to it. I don't cling to it. And the times that I do, it actually really backfires. Because I'm only clinging to it from one place, a sense of lack. I don't mean I spend stupidly, this currency of life, but the only thing within me that clings, it's from a sense of lack. And I'm really working it right now, y'all. Okay? I'm already at half-time salary, and I'm about to have 0 salary and no benefits. So I'm really working this to know that there is no lack. And I'm not clinging. And I've had to watch myself. I'm like, oh, let's just back off on our giving. Let's don't give to here, not to here. Trust me, we never back off to here. But the other places. And I'm like, ooh, what's going on? I'm afraid I don't have one more hug to give in a moment when I need it. Oh, I'm afraid that I don't have enough love to go around. And I've attached it now to currency. And it's just not true. Because if I believe that on the inside of me, everything around me is going to show me that I don't have enough currency.
So we're running out of time for today's conversation. So we're going
to have to continue this.
So we're going to be talking about this all month, different ways in which we can fuel our rocket, break through the barriers of our lack and limitation, really understand that the universe is for us, that we are supported, that there are laws and principles that we're using in this process of growing our abundance. And that we do this in conjunction with our annual pledge program, because our pledge program is an opportunity for you to experiment and to prove to yourself that there are prosperity principles that will make a difference in your life, and will make a difference in what it is that you can contribute to life. Not only just what you can get and acquire, which is not a bad thing, but also that which you can contribute. So stay tuned for the rest of the month. I hope you're signed up for a home study group. If you're not, you'll also have received the study guide that we pass out to everybody for the month. But if you're in a home study group, you're going on a much deeper dive in this Adventures in Spirit to soar out of this world to prosperity and beyond. So enjoy the ride.
Yeah, and take a look on our social media and YouTube channel, because now what she doesn't know is, since we didn't get to finish this conversation, we'll tape some more and put them out for you guys too.